Before we get into today's topic, I just want to take a few moments to thank Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. In the ocean of online content, there are lots of websites that are eager to just take your information without you even knowing it. But believe it or not, you can actually swim under the radar using Surfshark VPN. You can stop websites from tracking your info and just kind of selling you targeted ads, because nothing is creepier than when you're just having a conversation with a homie and something literally pops up regarding that very conversation in your ads. So if you want both protection and freedom online, please make sure you click the link in the description and use the code EVISU. It gets you 85% off the regular price, but also in addition to that, you'll get 3 months of service totally free. Now keep in mind that Surfshark does offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's absolutely no risk to try it out for yourself. Big thanks to Surfshark, and I hope you guys will try it out. Alright guys, so I know you probably see the title of this video and just assume it's going to be some ratchet shit, but I can actually assure you it's not. It's not a game to be anything to do with like current events or anything of the sort. It's just, I've been in the community for a very long time, okay? I'm talking about like early Melee, like 2006. I've seen some things that I believe have kind of led to some interesting toxicity in the community, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because some of these things I've actually found to be a little bit amusing, but it does go to show that sometimes the community can be over the top. So I'm gonna open things up right now with a little bit of a top 5 most toxic things I've observed in the Smash community. I want to take you guys back to a game called Super Smash Bros. Brawl, okay? This is easily one of my favorite Smash games, but a lot of people hated it for one sole reason: Meta Knight. Now I can understand Meta Knight being a point of contention for a lot of people. Like, this to me is still overall the most broken character Smash has ever produced, and I say that with full confidence. Like, you can make the correct read on Meta Knight and you end up getting punished. Now Meta Knight actually got to a point where he was so broken that they ended up banning the character in teams, as in you couldn't play double MK. I thought this was pretty fair. It actually opened up a lot of diversity and kind of made doubles more interesting again. But the thing that kind of got out of hand, I thought, was when they started trying to ban this character fully in singles. Now there was a committee, okay? It was called the Rule Set Committee or something like that, okay? It was comprised mainly of Rob mains who were just tired of getting on by Meta Knight, you know, tornado spamming and all other stuff. And I get it, you know, it's a tough matchup to do. I've never been someone who agreed with banning characters. Essentially what this did is split the community, because the Rule Set Committee actually ended up getting a lot of traction, believe it or not. And at the time, Smashboards was like really relevant in the scene, so you could get your tournament thread stickied, right? And what that meant was it was like among like maybe 5 or 6 other threads that were always at the top of the particular board that you were in, okay? They could never fall to lower on the page or to the second page. If you did not follow their recommended rule set, okay, you could not have your event sticky no matter how large it was. Now I think Apex at one point, just given the sponsorships and the international attention that it attracted, it was able to bypass that. But I just remember like a lot of people just like on each other, like, oh, you're pro Meta Knight ban, you know, you. Like it was just kind of, it actually was a lot more toxic and rampant than you might think. And it always just made me think, like, this little torso-less creature with a mask and a sword who just happens to spin really fast really cause these many problems in the game. Next up on my list, I'm going to go ahead and go with the Melee documentary. Now listen to me, okay? If you've ever watched the Melee doc, you know just how amazingly produced this piece of film was, okay? Like the way they broke it down, the interviews they got, the history that was just shown and displayed, like it was amazing, and it really made people fall in love with Melee. The problem that came along with it was a lot of people fell so much in love with Melee, they just said F every other Smash game, period. Doc kids is a term you probably hear a lot because it primarily relates to people who were inspired by the doc. You might have been playing Smash, you know, just casually or whatever, but maybe it got you in the competitive scene, or even if you were already in the competitive scene, it definitely reinforced your love for the game, and for good reason. I mean, we all know Melee has stood the test of time, and it will continue to do so. Like, a lot of people think it could potentially even outlast Ultimate, and with this new Slippy mod available now, I'm not necessarily putting it past that. Like, it is actually a game that just does not seem like it's gonna die. And because let me tell you something, for a documentary to have so much influence that it permanently changes any view that you have over any contending Smash game is just pretty nutty. Now don't get it twisted, I'm not vilifying the whole Melee community. I consider myself part of the Melee community, you know what I'm saying? I love Melee, it's a great game, but it's just those extremists who just take it to another level, try and make you feel like for liking another title, and it's one of those things it's never gotten any better. I feel like it's always been that kind of like Melee versus, you know, any other Smash title, and we know that's always been the case. Like, it was pretty big back in Smash 4, Brawl always got dumpstered on. Ultimate maybe doesn't see it quite as much because a lot of actual like top talent has actually invested some time into Ultimate and have expressed that they enjoy the game, but it's definitely something that's kind of rooted in the community, and that I just don't think is going anywhere. But don't get it twisted, I love the Melee doc. I hope that ends up on Netflix one day. Next up, we're going back to characters, okay? And I'm talking about Bayonetta. You probably probably had this somewhere pegged on your list to pop up, but Bayonetta, even more so than Meta Knight. Like, Bayonetta wasn't as good as Meta Knight, I will never agree with that, but she definitely induced a lot more hate, okay? I'm talking about people who played this character, they received death threats, okay? People were blatantly rude to them at tournaments, like constantly heckling them. And then don't even get me started on that Twitch chat, bro. Like, I don't agree with putting a Twitch chat in like sub-only mode, but there were some times where I was like, you know what? I couldn't blame a streamer for doing it. Now, any way you slice it, I still say this character just was not the most broken we've seen, a la Meta Knight I talked about earlier, but like, there's never been another character I felt like could like elicit so much hate and anger just by selecting her on the screen, okay? It really unleashed people's just inner toxicity to just be like, yo, straight up, you and this stiletto wearing. When I really think about it now, it kind of makes me wonder, like, honestly, was the real reason the character was nerfed from Smash 4 to Ultimate because, like, maybe she was considered a little too dominant in her particular game, or did Sakurai just not want to subject the new generation of Smashers to the toxicity that followed? I mean, honestly, it's kind of wild to think about, but it's not something I would put it past them. Next up, guys, I'm going to talk about something that if you've been in the community for 4 or 5 years, you probably know pretty well. Project M, okay, and the fall of Project M. Why did it actually die? You know, what was the cause of it? Was the fact that Nintendo got involved? Was that something that really happened? Did they go ahead and shoot out that cease and desist? Because really, Project M was like at the height of popularity when it seemingly just kind of got canned. I remember, I think it was Apex 2015 that was looking pretty promising to have that event. They had it at the previous Apex. I know that a lot of people enjoyed entering that and having a good time, but it just seemed like out of nowhere the game was just out amongst a lot of tournament organizers. Now, you can make an excellent case that this is the game Brawl deserved to be. Okay, you had great characters, great movement. It really resembled a Melee-esque style because obviously the people who created the game were big fans of Melee. So there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, well, obviously you knew that it had more potential in the long run because what? It was fan made, you know what I'm saying? Like, it had those mechanics that a lot of people really wanted and enjoyed, and you knew that they were constantly patching it to fix any little issue. Now, as I said, I was very big into Project M, okay? I played it a lot, I casted a lot at earlier Xanadu with TK, and really when we kind of got cheated out of our opportunity to cast at Apex, because it felt like we were kind of primed and primed to be the guys who were going to cast the finals for that game should it take place at Apex, but it just never came to fruition. A lot of people blame the fact, I think Apex, you know, got a lot of sponsors. They kind of got a little bit of backing at the time from Nintendo, and that was the reason they had to pull the plug. Now, VG Bootcamp, interestingly enough, they were big supporters of Project M, and they too were kind of forced to kind of, you know, nix it. And I was always kind of like on the fence, like it wasn't something that they actively tried to destroy the game like a lot of people would claim, because remember, Gimmer was first able to quit his full-time job when he got 500 subs primarily off of streaming Project M. So I know they had a lot of love for the game, but there was always like some unseen force behind the scenes. I'm not putting it on Nintendo for sure, but there was definitely something going on that really led to that game just not being able to be and live up to its true potential. And that's the reason why I feel like even to this day, like there's a lot of deep-seated animosity towards people. Like there's a faction of the community that still, you know, kind of resents all parties believed to be involved in the game's downfall. And don't get it twisted, like we've seen other iterations of, you know, kind of altered Smash take place, but I don't feel like any of them have ever had the same impact that Project M did at the time. Last but not least, we're not going to talk about a game, we're not going to talk about a moment, no, we're going to talk about a person, okay? And that person I'm talking about is Hungrybox. Now, Hungrybox himself is not a source of toxicity, okay? He's not a toxic person. I don't feel like. I've known him for a while. I never got that vibe, but just the sheer presence of him on the screen can definitely ignite just a lot of hate in people. Now, I'm not gonna say that his playstyle at times hasn't fueled some of that fire, you know what I'm saying? But honestly, a lot of it's just kind of wild when you think about it. Like, I've been at Genesis, right? I've been in the crowd where people are just chanting obscenities at this man on stage, you know what I'm saying? I've seen him trolled on and offline, like to just no end in sight. And for God's sakes, I was at that pound. Somebody actually had the nerve to throw a crab at the man. Just won the tournament and somebody threw a crab at the man. Sadly, I did not have any Old Bay seasoning on me to kind of salvage the situation, so I did feel bad, but nobody really deserves that. And it does kind of go to show you, like, I've always said, like, it feels like HBox is almost the John Cena of the Smash community, right? Like, really polarizing, and it's either you love him or you hate him, and a lot of the times it seems to be hate. Now, the caveat to that to me is interesting, because although, you know, on the surface it would seem like, yeah, you know, most people don't like HBox, and like he's somebody who like can really bring out the toxic side of a lot of people. If you ever watch his stream on Twitch, this guy's got like 10,000 subs. Like, so that's telling me like there's a good chunk of people who clearly like him. Now, does that have something to do with the fact that he primarily streams Ultimate? maybe so, you know what I'm saying? Like, he really enjoys kind of pushing Jigglypuff in that game as well, and he's gotten to some pretty nice feats and stuff like that, and gotten a lot of recognition with the character, created a lot of good highlights. So his stream is definitely something I think is worth checking out, but it's just the fact that when you think about somebody who's been considered the best in Melee for quite some time, obviously not going to be able to maybe perform the best online all the time, but for them to not even stream their primary game and just make a whole new, very much more wholesome community within that stream, and you can't really blame them when you see him making videos like, am I going to quit Melee, am I still going to play Melee? It's kind of like, well, I guess you do have a lot to think about considering how you get treated when you lose, you know what I'm saying? People just always celebrating that shit. I can only imagine what that man's DMs look. That's a case where you don't leave your DMs open, okay? Because then you're leaving yourself open, okay? And then you just, that's a whole lot of tears, brother. But yeah, those are just a couple moments I feel like a lot of toxicity is kind of attached to, and it's not like to blame necessarily the person by any means or even like the situation, but these are some moments I definitely kind of attach to Smash, and while some of them are comical, some of them are a little bit of like head scratchers and just WTF moments, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you can never say that people aren't passionate about this game, but sometimes that passion, it don't always rear its head in the proper way. But you can rear your support in the proper way by hitting that like button, okay? You already know, follow, subscribe to your boy, and drop a comment, man. I love hearing from you guys. If there's any moments that you feel kind of elicit some toxicity that may be a little more humorous or just even controversial, please drop them down below, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace.